Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this Shadow the Hedgehog puppet out of paper. Welcome along. My name is Ben Stanley and I design and create paper-based working replicas of beloved Muppets, puppets, characters and creatures. So if paper craft's your thing, or you just like what you see, I'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. So you may or you may not know that around about a year ago I made a Sonic the Hedgehog puppet. And I was really happy with it, the video went well, but over time I realised there were probably a few minor amends and adjustments that I could make. Which is why you created me, Shadow the Hedgehog, the ultimate life form. Yeah, I guess you could say that. So yeah, and as you can imagine, well, that's exactly what I did. As you can imagine, this Shadow puppet is based quite heavily on the original Sonic template. He may look like me, but he's just a fake. Okay, I mean, your words, Shadow, not mine. I like the little blue fella. Anyway, yeah, so I've definitely made a few upgrades and improvements. So, for example, I've used thicker paper, closer to cardstock really, just to make him sturdier. I certainly spent more time on the footwear, so I think that's worked out a lot better. I've made his teeth less prominent, so that he's got less of the sort of ugly Sonic vibe about him, or ugly Shadow vibe, I guess. And probably most importantly, last time round I shamefully omitted to add the quills and the tail at the back, so they're all present and correct. But anyway, I can tell you all about that as we go through the video. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is how I made Shadow the Hedgehog, the ultimate life form. The ultimate life form from paper. So we're starting with the face, adding eyes and ears, and my usual recommendation applies here that you cut out, score and pre-fold everything before you get going. We started gluing the top of the head and then the ears get folded around to give them a bit of shape. So you can begin to see the three-dimensionality already. Then we're on to creating support for the head, and it involves folding 3 sheets of paper into strips like this. The first two glue together with about 4 cm spare at either end to create a circular shape. We add a rectangle piece of paper to the third strip, which is then glued to the circle to create a chin strap, completing the framework which will support the head. And then the face and the circle are glued together, and there needs to be a slight gap of about a finger's width between the two in the very centre where the circle meets the back of what will be the nose. You can also see that I folded up the centre of the circle at the same point so that the finger can rest on it when operating the mouth, which will be done as shown. And then we're onto the quills, and this section of the template takes 2 sheets of paper, and once we've created this one, we're going to need to make the mirror image of it to create the quills on the other side of the head as well. And here you'll see this folded line fits in neatly into the other folded line as we shape the cone, and then we're going to glue it over there. And again, to be clear, the gluing on this build takes so much longer than I'm showing here. It would be true to say that the gluing gives me more stress than any other part of the builds, but it has to be done, and ultimately you just have to be patient and hold the paper together for however many minutes it takes to bond them. Next up is the central top quill, which is a bit more straightforward to construct. That's just creating the cone there, and again, scoring in advance is really going to help you out with the folding. So then, once you've got that done, the top quill is going to attach to the other 4 quills, which are going to need to be glued together first. And then once the tip of the top quill has been glued in the centre, we flip it over, and it should pop into place and glue down onto the other quills. Next up, we're going to glue the head to the quills, one side at a time, and as you can see, the face should just slide in and glue in place there, and there are a couple of markers on the quills that line up with the bottom of the ear and the bottom of the face. And then we need to glue the top of the head to the top quill. You just got to hold it there for as long as it takes to properly bond. And then these flaps at the top of the lower side spines glue in here. And then it's the lower central spine, which is very similar to the top one. Once we've folded over these sections here, that's going to glue in the same place on the 4 quill sections as the top one did, which is pretty impossible to show you, but you'll be able to feel it if you give it a go. Then we glue the flap onto the structural circle piece, and then we glue the bottom of the top quill and push it down to bond to the lower central quill. Again, you'll be holding them together for quite a while. And then we attach the red stripes to all of the quills, and you'll need to make sure that they get firmly held in place. And then onto the external mouth, which is all one section here, which folds around and glues together in the centre of the top lip in two places to give it that sort of three-dimensional shape. And here we are adding the teeth on the inside. Now, I changed my mind just as I was filming this, so the teeth that you see in the template aren't going to have any drawings of teeth on them. This is the section your thumb is going to sit in to open and close the mouth. And this section is going to glue right in towards the front of the mouth, and you need to curve it around a bit when you're holding it there so that the lower lip remains curved. And it's the thumb movement inside this section that will actually open and close the mouth. And then we've got the inner mouth section. Again, we're just going to put a strip of white paper there for the teeth, plus the tongue of course. And this section glues in so that you can hide the thumb and the mouth opening mechanism. So as well as giving Shadow a kind of internal mouth area, it also helps to mask your thumb. The nose is an eraser from a whiteboard dry marker pen, plus a little strip of folded paper that glues on the inside to help it attach it to the front of the face. Next we glue the tabs on the bottom of the eyes, and that's the only place the mouth and face are connected, as you need the mouth free further to the sides to allow it to open and close. Again, the two parts need holding together for quite a few minutes to fully bond. Onto the body, and we start with the hands, and these are exactly the same as Sonic's hands. It's just a case of gluing each tab and holding them in place until they bond. And once one end is done, we add this disc with glued tabs in to where the knuckles are, and then we're going to glue all the tabs at the wrist end. And then we'll cut it about ½ centimetre in at each of the joining sections. There's an obvious place to stop cutting that you'll see, and each flap folds back ready to be glued to the wristbands, which are red and black with the gold ring around them. The two versions of these wristbands will need to be mirror images of each other. So these bits just glue together and then fold around, and you'll need to make sure that the black aligns with the front of the wrist and the red with the back of the wrist. Each arm is going to be half a sheet of A4 paper that's rolled up. And this end that I'm folding will be the end that goes inside the fist section, and then the other end we need to make sure that we cut it around the edges to create the rounding of his shoulder. And then we're going to pierce a hole through and then add a little strengthener in to go behind the hole so that the paper fastener doesn't end up ripping through. And then we add these little flaps, which are going to help to glue the arm into the hand section. All the markings are on the template for where to glue them on. We push it in, and the flaps glue inside the inner part of the wristbands. Then we're constructing the body. Again, we glue on some extra bits of folded paper to strengthen the area that the paper fasteners will be pushed through when we're attaching the arms. And we're going to pop them in now and just fold them back so that we're ready to add the arms at the right moment. And then just as with the hands, we're going to glue and fold the tabs over, starting with what will be the top of the body. For the top section of the body, I've once again strengthened the centre here with some extra folded paper where I'm puncturing the two holes for the black wool to thread through and back again, as this will effectively need to take the whole weight of the puppet when in use. This section is added in once we are about 2/3 of the way round. It's a bit fiddly, and you need to make sure that the two threads of wool are in line with the paper fasteners. Next we're going to add the arms, and you just need to make sure that each arm is attached to the correct paper fastener so that the join line of the body that we're going to glue together shortly is at the back and not at the front. And then we're going to glue the bottom section about 2/3 of the way around, starting from the middle to match the top. At this point we attach the bottom section of the body, again gluing about 2/3 of its tabs. we glue that join line I mentioned earlier, and that will be the back of the puppet. The rest is going to be a bit more fiddly. It's helpful to use some sort of spatula on the inside to be able to add pressure from both sides to help the bonding. When even this becomes tricky, I punched a small hole where the tail is going to go and poked a thin letter opener through to be able to put pressure from the inside as well as the outside. Once we've glued the ends of the arms, we're going to glue his white chest section onto the body. And then we're onto his boots, starting with the sole, and this is going to be the front section, and that just folds and glues quite simply. And then we're onto the heel section, and you can see how it all folds here, and once all the tabs have been folded, we glue them in, and that will create the rounded shape of the heel. Next, we glue the front and the back of the soles together, and then glue the inside of the heel, and then add in some black paper for the ankle, which glues in there, and these little tabs then glue in to keep it all in place and firm. And then it's onto the white front section, and again we glue those tabs before putting it in, and it's a bit of a squeeze, but they will fit in there, and you just need to make sure you hold it so that the glue holds firmly. And then we're going to glue up the sides, and the black section will just slide underneath the white section there. And then the tongue is going to wrap around onto those little tabs that we've created. And then here we're creating the thrusters at the bottom of his boots, and we're going to do 3 of those at the front and 2 of them on the heel. Those golden sections glue onto the sole of the shoe. And then we've got the gold ring to wrap around. And that's the shoe done. Each leg is a rolled up full sheet of A4 paper. And that's going to glue into the inside bottom of each boot. And it should rest right up in that corner there. And once you're gluing it in place, you could hold it there with a ruler or a spatula whilst it's bonding. Next, we fold back 5 centimeters on the top, and we're going to cut this open to create a strong support for the body. We're going to cut it in a number of different places, and each cut is going to allow the leg to best attach to the body. So the back section is going to go underneath the body, and then the front section is actually going to go into the body, and there'll be one final section that will glue underneath. Before attaching them to the body, we need to glue these extra tab pieces together to strengthen them, and so that we end up ultimately with these 3 sections. Next, we make a small cut down the side of the body directly below the arms on each side to create a slot for the front tab to slide into. It'll have glue on one side of it, so it'll be fiddly to get in there, so you take your time, and then we can put the ruler in there, and it just really helps to press down so it glues down onto the inside of the body. And then the larger flap at the back gets glued into place, and then that bottom one just glues up underneath. Here I'm holding it in place using a letter opener through the hole that I mentioned earlier to get pressure from the inside as well as the outside. And then we repeat the process from the other side, gluing the front tab inside the body, the back tab at the back, and then that smaller tab underneath. And then we create the back quills, which I omitted from the Sonic puppet. And these sections get folded into simple cones, which will then be glued and stuck onto the back of the body. And then the tail is just a smaller cone, which is going to glue nicely over the hole we made earlier, which was helping us attach the legs. The final piece of the jigsaw is to attach the head to the body. So we're going to puncture these 2 holes in the neck section and then thread through the wool on both sides. I needed to add an extra needle to get both sides through. And then we pull it as tight as we can. We do a double knot and then cut off any excess, and we're there. So there you have it. That's how I made this Shadow the Hedgehog puppet out of paper. Perfect, as always. Indeed. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Let me know what you think about the puppet in the comments. And if you fancy watching the original Sonic build, you can do that over there. Until next time, goodbye forever. Shadow the Hedgehog. Okay, bit intense, but you do you, Shadow. Till next time. Bye-bye.